Welcome to the Brubacher and Beyond podcast, where we are shaping the world we live in so more people can find the construction industry uncommonly refreshing. Today, we are recording this. This is one of those great things of technology where I am at the headquarters of Brubacher, and our guest is over there, way up north. Neal, good morning, and welcome to the Brubacher and Beyond podcast. I'm so happy to have you. Again, this is something outside of our people, and it's great to have Neal part of that network on LinkedIn. I was interested in doing this podcast because I'm a firm believer that you should invest in yourself. You should invest in your company. You should always continuously train yourself because you are your best asset, right? And if you are not physically fit, mentally strong and fit, how can you help your organization or yourself? So I am familiar with Neal. I do not use Neal's services, but I think for the construction industry, if you are looking for that right coach or mentor, that's why there's different flavors of ice cream. And I think Neal could be one of those flavors to somebody out there that's listening, and hopefully he can help you. So Neal, with that long intro, tell the people who you are.
Good morning, Chris. Thank you so much for that. It's very generous and certainly would love to help people. And I think there's probably a few that I can and a lot more that I can't, right? And what you said really resonated with me because I've had coaches for everything. I had a speaking coach, sales coach, a coach to help me run the Boston Marathon a couple of times, a second speaking coach, and a lot of other coaches. And sometimes it was amazing more often than not, but occasionally it was like, yeah, this isn't really a fit for me. And so I've had some coaching that didn't work out as well. And I think you're right. There is a match sort of out there. But about me, I got started in the trades back in 2009. I was working in landscaping and snow removal, and then I worked in just snow removal, and we worked with a tremendous amount of guys in the trades to help us in our operation. So excavators, paving contractors, landscapers, roofers, painters, fertilizer and pest control, and just found this awesome community. And I really fell in love with doing something real, doing something critical that a lot of people sort of take for granted in their community, and doing something massively valuable that really enables life for everybody else. So I just love the trades. I love the jobs that we provide for people who don't want to work in a stuffy office or come from a background that prohibits them from doing that in some way. And I think it's one of the great sectors out there and one that people don't spend enough attention or effort trying to cultivate. So that's what I love. That's what I'm all about. And for the last almost 10 years, I've been doing that in this coaching role, specifically around sales. And so we help companies hire amazing salespeople. We don't recruit, by the way. We just help them figure out how to identify all-stars in this hiring process. We do sales strategy. Sometimes we assess existing teams and try and diagnose problems and get to better performance. And then sometimes I actually do one-on-one coaching as well for a few people at a time and help them become their best salesperson ever and improve, like you talked about, right? Take care of themselves, invest in themselves, and provide a lot of amazing jobs for amazing people.
Yeah. So one of the things about sales, since I am in the role of business development, people always, and I like to get your thought process behind here, are good or great salespeople born? Or if you're not a salesperson by your DNA, can you become a great salesperson?
Sure.
I'd like to get your little thought behind that.
So I will share with you that I've done quite a lot of research on this. I studied this as part of my MBA program a few years ago for my capstone project. I'm partnered up with a organization that has been studying salespeople for more than 30 years. We have more than 2 million salespeople we've assessed with hundreds of data points each. And the data is really clear. There is something called sales DNA. I don't know that it's genetic, but I do think that you learn at a young age. It's a lot of the beliefs we have. And that really separates someone who's amazing from someone who is going to struggle in sales. No, I don't think it's like a valorous thing. It's not something where people who have it are amazing, people who don't aren't. It's just sort of a set of beliefs. And maybe you've gone to some professional conferences and you get put in a room with a bunch of other business developers and you're like, oh yeah, we all share that. And it's all kind of annoying, right? That's
Yeah.
my experience when I'm with other business developers, but it's there. It's how we act, how we believe things about money, how we believe things about rejection, being uncomfortable. There's something that we call sales DNA, and we can assess for it. And it can move a little bit, but it's fairly set. I was coaching a young kid and they were doing overseeding and composting, if you're familiar. So basically manure.
Yep.
And it was for high end residences. So this package started at $5,000 to aerate, to overseed, and to compost a whole yard. And he
Been
just
there,
couldn't
done
get.
that.
Yeah, right. And he just couldn't get over the fact that it was $5,000 for very cheap product. He thought that it was a waste of money. And it's because of the way he was brought up. And he spent
And
more time arguing.
he was the one selling this.
He was supposed to be selling it, right?
He was supposed to be selling.
He was
Okay,
supposed to be
yeah.
selling it. And I'm supposed to be helping him sell more of it, right?
Okay.
And he's like 24 years old. And he spent more time trying to convince me that this was sort of a ripoff than he did trying to convince a customer it would help them get the lawn that they wanted.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. It's kind of his parents' fault. It's just how he was raised, right? Lower income upbringing, not that comfortable with high amounts of discretionable income that way. And I can't change that. I can't overcome all that conditioning. So, two options. Let's help you get into a different type of role. Maybe it's account management, maybe it's selling something else, or let's go help you find a different home, whether it's in operations or at a different company. And really, for me, that's the approach. You're just in the wrong seat, right? And so there's two other things. There's will to sell, which is motivation and outlook and owning personal responsibility. And people kind of have that, and we can sort of help them with goal setting to make that stronger. And then there's also sales tactics. And my experience typically with companies who are aware of hiring for attitude or hiring for desire, when I assess them, they tend to have people who score pretty good on will to sell and sales DNA, but low on tactics. And I can teach sales tactics all day, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the sales guy that just doesn't know how to use the CRM at all, totally overwhelmed by technology, but good with people.
Yep.
I can teach you technology. That's easy, right? Someone who's dialing the phone or knocking on the doors or going to all the networking events, but just getting like low acceptance rates or getting told yes a lot in meetings, but then never seeing that come to fruition, and the sale goes on or the proposal sits there for 4 or 6 weeks before they change their mind, other things happen. Like, I can teach people how to be effective that way. I can't overcome someone who is wiped out by rejection or someone who thinks that $5,000 is the most amount of money in the world.
Yeah. 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 So you touched upon a whole bunch of stuff, and I just kind of went down memory lane. And so a couple of things from my perspective, right, that I learned. I do believe that I'm going to say sales, but for me at a young age, I was always selling or always marketing or always trying to figure out why that makes a customer think about that. And a couple things here happened. One, through my automotive background, had a customer had an older vehicle, and I realized it wasn't my place to tell him to throw that vehicle away because I didn't know that he inherited that vehicle from a family member who passed away. So that vehicle was his connection to memories, right? It was my job to tell him what that vehicle needed and how much it was going to cost. That's it. Just tell him what it is and what needs to be done. So that's that. There is an infinite amount of money out there.
Right.
What is expensive for me may not be expensive for somebody else, or what I prioritize my life is expensive, and what I want to do is not my decision to prioritize someone else's. It's just to give them the information and the facts.
Right.
But I do tell this to a lot of people. If you wake up and don't want to go to work, if it sucks your energy out by the position that you're in, I'm saying sales or operations, you should want to be excited in the morning to go to work. You know what I mean? Like, people are always like, hey, happy Friday. No, that means the weekend's coming, you know? I want to keep working. I love Mondays.
Right.
But that's just things that I think have happened in the past
Yeah.
and just made me who I am today. So I do agree with you. And I would say this to people too. If you are a great operations, technical, you're the accountant in that business or something, and you don't get fired up going to meetings or social events, or people do want to see owners of companies and stuff like that. But if that doesn't fire you up, find somebody that can take that role or that place for you and be the outreach to the company.
I agree. And sometimes I work with people, and it's not that they're in the wrong role, it's that the role isn't very good, right? And so
Yeah.
it could be someone who has tried selling and they like it. They want to like it anyway, but they're frustrated by the process, right? Which is different
Yeah.
than being deeply unhappy about what you're trying to do. And that is very common for companies that are growing fast. At the beginning, when you're in sales and you're having success, it's not that crazy hard. You can sort of remember everything. You know all your clients, you know all the deals you put out there. But then when you start to multiply your impact, whether that's through other salespeople or through trying to do more, you start to lose track of stuff, right? And that's where we
Yep.
see in that growth phase, you didn't really have great systems or processes in place. And that's starting to stress you out. And so that doesn't mean that sales isn't for you necessarily. It just means, hey, and you are trying to do this 100% through your own effort, and that's not going to work. Usually it's around like 100 clients, which is funny. Churches have known this for a long time, which is why the average church size in the US is around 100. It's the number of personal relationships that one pastor can manage. Right.
Yes.
And
100%. Yeah.
so once you start trying to navigate more than 100 people, whether it's direct reports, vendors that are key relationships, or customers, you probably are like, whoa, I'm really struggling. This is where technology and AI has made our life amazing, not to automate the touch points, but to help us keep track of everything. And we've been doing a ton of work in the past 6 months on building better relationships, showing up more human in a time when people are kind of shying away from it, right?
Yeah.
And we see the AI revolution as this amazing opportunity to double down on relationships and use it to power them as opposed to replace them.
100%. I agree with you there, right? Because, I mean, if you look at like just the social media stuff, let's just take LinkedIn. You used to be able to go in, message somebody, they would interact back with you. That's way down now,
Way
right?
down.
And
Yeah.
and people are looking for that personal touch. In a
Mhm.
world where if you can figure out how to scale the unscalable, I always
Yeah.
think of it, it all comes back to the relationships. And in a world where they're like, how many likes, how many followers, how many this, big numbers.
Yeah.
No, it's like how many phone calls, how many text messages,
Thank
how
you
many
cards,
lunches. I'm sorry,
handwritten
what'd you say?
thank you card, handwritten thank you cards.
Yeah, that is just powerful ways to do business. So again, for the Beyond, Brubacher and Beyond, for all the people out there, hopefully this helps you if you're in your early stages of sales or if you're thinking about something, it just gives you another perspective. So let's go down. You did mention technology. That's another thing. Like I say this to some people, I'm like, man, I am really, really committed. It was one of my personal goals in 2025 to spend a lot of time and resources with AI. Like
Mm.
I went all in, right? And it's paid off. It has really helped me. It's just taken my game to the next level.
I'm so
Uh,
curious to know how you're using it.
Everywhere. I
Okay.
use it for everything. I mean, my family thinks I'm crazy about it. I have multiple accounts. It depends on which business I'm using it for, but I'll even use it to process my thoughts
Okay.
and the way that I have the settings. And even I drive a lot.
Mm.
I'm in the vehicle, I'm going from meeting to meeting, and I'll block out 10 minutes to just say, hey, I'm thinking about this.
Mm.
I'd like this to be the outcome. What are the steps that I should be thinking about taking,
Yeah.
if that makes any? But from that, from cleaning up, and I would say to people who aren't using it a lot, the more you put into the system, the more it learns of you.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of hacks. I don't want to give all my secrets out, but we're talking about tools.
Yeah.
Neal, what are the basic 101 tools that people should be using in sales if they are And,
So,
and you hit this right on the head. Usually, great salespeople, you'll see them get really good. They'll start to hit that glass ceiling,
mhm,
and then they get frustrated, and
yeah.
then they're not reinvesting in themselves.
Right, right. So the thing that we've always had in sales, as long as computers have been kind of modern, is what you call a CRM. And CRM is a type of software. It stands for customer relationship management software. And that's the idea. It's software to help you manage the customer relationships. In a trade like excavation and site work, paving, I would say also fits this. You have these super long sales cycles. You might get
Years, years.
Exactly. You're going to
Yes.
get hit up by an architect for value add engineering plans or consultation, and it could be 3 years before they even get the financing in place on the deal, right? And then another
Yeah.
couple of years, depending on how ambitious of a development this is and where everybody's at, and how many times those deals go nowhere because
Yep.
zoning didn't come through or who knows, right? So it's impossible for any one person, I think, to really know everything that's been done and say, and that's what this is. Now, the big problem that trades face is they tend to use some sort of software for operations. And it's a software that your crews are supposed to clock into. It's going to help you manage equipment. And they say we have a CRM module. And it's not true. I wish they'd stop saying it. They have a glorified phone book. They have a way where there's some customer data. But salespeople, you need your own real system called a CRM. And by the way, these should talk to each other. They should be integrated. There shouldn't be double entry. But like what you're being told is your module within this operations thing is just, it's not. And it boggles my mind because the operations software people are very clear that we would never attempt finance. You still need QuickBooks or Sage or whatever else because
Yeah.
we're not a fight. But then on sales, like, oh, we can do it. And they just don't do well. So what
Yep.
don't they do well? What specifically gets me riled up about it? They don't track emails automatically in those systems. And you have to have that. You have to have a system that's automatically going through your email and assigning it to all the right contacts and deals and properties. Same with phone calls. And in most states, you can record phone calls with one party's consent. And I love when my salespeople get phone call recordings, not to be creepy, but for us to practice and
Yeah.
rehearse.
100%.
Because
Yep.
role playing, it's nice, but it's kind of contrived and it's not the same as the real world. So when I can sit down with someone and just listen to their calls, that's amazing, right? And then a way to track all those interactions, right? So phone calls, emails, meetings should interact with your calendar, and then tracking your deals. And usually what I'm trying to track is, all right, you have a deal that exists, right? You're somewhere pre or post proposal, but there's an opportunity to do business. And so I want to know what's your next step and how long has it been since your last step? And then what's going on with it, right? That's always my question.
Yeah. So
And
you're setting the expectations, right? Like for your next interaction with that customer.
a good salesperson would, right?
Yes.
We don't walk away from something go, oh man, Chris, that was amazing. Let's keep this going. And you're like, okay, I don't really know what that means. And then guess what? Nobody knows what that means. I have no
Yeah.
plans to do that. You have no plans to do that. There has to be a meeting, a touch point, an agreed upon next step if this is going to be moving forward. Sometimes I work with salespeople and they'll be told, yeah, we want to go with you guys and we're going to give you a last look opportunity to revise and we really want to work with you. Cool. So what do we do now? Right? And they go, oh, well, we'll be in touch. And then 30 or 45 or 60 days goes by and nothing's happened. And I grew up with a phrase, actions speak louder than words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if a customer is telling me we want to work with you, well, we should be going through legal review or revising proposals or setting meetings and walking sites. Like there should be action around this. And a lot of salespeople get kind of excited when they hear we're going to work with you and they sort of let go of the wheel and then the deal kind of careens, right? And so a good CRM is going to force you to put in that next date. It's going to force you to go in and see stuff on a daily basis and say, oh, wow, I haven't done anything for 26 days. That's bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
It should be working for you and reminding you of all that stuff. That is essential tech. I would say in today's digital age, LinkedIn and video competency is like 1B on that, but a CRM is definitely 1A.
Yeah. I would say this too. There's a ton of CRMs. There's a ton of different price points. I mean, the
Sure.
big one out there, right? Salesforce. like
Absolutely.
it, dislike it. I would say, though, in the past, I was able to configure Salesforce to suit me and my team's needs, right? So
100%.
I want everybody to be aware of that too. Salesforce, as you get it, is a standard printout of their platform, right? But with the Salesforce third party stuff, you can hire an agency to critique it to exactly how you want it.
Yeah.
And I'll give the example in the construction world, and everybody knows this. There's a project, right? Well, that project might be sought after by 5 GCs. That's the next
Mm-hmm.
level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're want to do something with that project. We're not going to bid just to that one GC because then you have 1/5 of an opportunity. You want to identify the project, identify the 5 GCs, and then send the proposal the way that those 5 GCs want them.
Right.
So there's different nuances. If I'm in the concrete business or in some other division of construction, you do need to critique it to how it flows best for you and your team.
Yeah.
I would say just out there that is there. So
You're right. And the mistake most people make is they don't have a defined process. So then they just kind of inherit whatever's off the shelf. With all of them, I would say the
Yes.
off the shelf is usually too much, right? Like
100%.
the number
You purchased a new truck and you don't know how to use all the technology, right?
and you don't
you're
don't even need it.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about a CRM, there's usually a bunch of modules. Modules is just like an area that you'd work in. Think of it like a spreadsheet used to be, but they're all linked together. And so the most basic is just going to be company, right? The company I'm talking to. And one of the things that's on every CRM out of the box is something called industry. Right. So is this a retail opportunity? Is this an engineering firm? You don't need that. You don't care. That's not actionable data. Right.
Yes.
And this is one instance where AI has made it worse. You start connecting some AI to this and it's like, we'll populate everything. And I know immediately when I walk into an organization, I just fire up the CRM and I can tell the number of leads to the number of salespeople and either see, oh, nobody's using this, or they hooked up AI and they're totally lost in the forest, or this is a healthy ecosystem right now. No salesperson needs 5,000 leads. You don't need a list of, for you, right? You don't need a list of all however many thousand GCs exist in the state of Pennsylvania, right? But Zoom Info will populate that for you if you let it, So you have to really set up some good guidelines and I like to write it on paper first. I'll say now, it used to be Salesforce was the only CRM that could get that granular and customized. It cost a fortune. I remember, 2012, 2015, we had this dream of a system and it was going to cost millions of dollars to build. Yeah. Now, today, it's like Claude will do it for you, right?
Yeah, you can build your own system.
And they're all that customizable. So if you're under a couple $1,000,000, just sign up for Zoho. It's free at the basic level. And HubSpot's great if you do a lot of web marketing, and consumer Salesforce is the juggernaut. It's probably more than most companies need, frankly. I'm personally on Zoho, right? And so what's fun is if you can imagine something, then you can create a module for it and automate it, right? So I'm not going to gatekeep any secrets for your listeners here, right? We have a module in our CRM for the people that we interact with, right? We call them contacts. And we have a module for their kids because we ask about their kids' information and birthdays and we send them cards. And we have a module for their pets.
I was going to say, what about their pets?
We have a pets module in our CRM. It's only 3 fields: name, breed, and birthday. Right? But when we send a Frisbee to somebody's dog on the dog's birthday, it's like you're the greatest person in the world. It's an $8 Nerf Frisbee, right? Yep. I could give you sporting event tickets that don't resonate as emotionally strong as a Nerf Frisbee for your dog, right? Yeah. The ROI is insane. Now, there's a lot of people who are like weirded out by it. We warn people, hey, we have this intake form. It's pretty invasive, right? It's not for everybody. And we'll get people who are like, dude, I'll keep it separate. I'm not interested in that. But when we have clients who are like, oh, I'd love to send you Cassidy, who works for me. Most of her job is like sending and collecting dog photos from people and sending out gifts, right? And a little social media and some coordination of meetings and stuff, right? I don't say that in like a diminishing way. I say it because it's not something I innately do well. And so I hired her to be able to do it. Chris, my social relational status and value with customers, I wish I'd done it 10 years ago. It's unbelievable how good it is just because I hired someone to give them the freedom to do it.
And I would say this too, Neal. That's important to you, right?
Yeah.
And just anybody can take this. If a customer pushes back and doesn't want to fill out a form, how do you think that customer's relationship is going to be throughout whatever project? You know what I mean?
Our form's really invasive. So the option to not fill out all the details because some people don't want. But it's a personal thing. And for the clients who do, it's amazing. And for the clients who don't, we have a healthy business relationship, but we don't have a deep personal relationship. And you talked about coaches. We have a coach for relationships, a team of coaches actually for relationships and gifting. And what they tell us is that relationships take you places that marketing can't. And it's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, marketing, if you look at the history of the marketing, Johnson and Johnson, from when the radio was invented, right? Who was the ones that came out of that era really big? And then when TV started, right? The eras of those companies that were built to social media now, the large companies that are being built off the back of then. I mean, it's all about attention, the marketing, it gets them there. But the deep relationships, if you are in a transactional business or if you are in the relationship business, right? Like, you got to be.
For what we do in the trades, right?
Yes.
It's purely relational. You're talking about your average contractor does what? 20 deals, 200 deals? It's not 2,000 customers. I mean, there's for sure plumbers and electricians who are dealing with tons of homeowners. And for them, marketing, go nuts. Right. Yeah. But for this B2B sales world that we're in, where a customer is going to write you a check for $100,000, $1 million, $10 million, that's a relationship. And you only need a couple. Right.
Yep.
So why would you go spend money on Google ads or Instagram
ads? But listen, I would say this, though, Neal. I don't know about you, but I went down that road in an early part of my career, right? And you think the wide net, the shotgun approach, right, works. Yeah. And it's really being intentional, developing a plan, developing a strategy. I do think some people, like you said, have that built into them at an early age. Some life events happened and it just is a miracle, right, that they have those processes, but that only gets them so far and they need to continue to grow. So there's a lot about sales tactics, but you work on all kinds of trades. Like you said, snow removal, landscaping. I remember my original background and whole long story, but I was in the trades and I remember going to events and be like, oh, Chris, what are you doing after high school? And I was going into the workforce and that people kind of look down that era. Totally. Now I'm telling them I have $4.
Yeah.
Look at the trades. What trade would you be interested? Look what can be done. What is your thoughts about the trades and the opportunities out there right now in the trade world?
The trades just in general are not doing enough to sell to the parents of the applicants. Right? If I was recruiting for a trade, I would have a one-page flyer explaining why this is not a dead-end job for burnouts and why you can really make a lot of money and have a successful career and provide for your family. Now, I live in Massachusetts. We have a deep history of trades. You had people who worked on the big dig for their whole career. And so there's always been a little bit more favorable for construction here than some other places. But I think where everybody is starting to recognize is, hey, this student debt thing is sort of crazy. Right?
Yeah.
Going to school for 5 or 6 years to end up with a degree to just flip over and become a realtor or something was really stupid and really ruined a lot of people's lives. And so I think that the younger generation is maybe a little more intelligent than mine was. They're starting to look ahead a little bit. They're seeing the mistakes of the former and saying, that's not really for me. And higher education is going to feel it a little bit. We just had a college campus announce up the road that they're not going to reopen in the fall, which is crazy, right? But it's happening.
It's happening all over. Colleges are going bankrupt. I think that's going to be a whole nother subject, but you're going to see a consolidation of these universities or academics. But that's another podcast. Go ahead.
But as a trades company, you got to get out there and make it known that you have really great jobs that don't require that route, that they're good ones, right? And when I told you about myself at the beginning of this podcast, I told you I love the trades because of what we do and the jobs we create. And it's essential infrastructure that we're building. Everywhere you go, everything you do in life is facilitated by trades, right? That is the modern American lifestyle. And we got to talk about that way more than we do, way more than we do.
100%. And I would say across the boards, right? Anybody in trades, say the good things about it, right? There are a lot of positives, the financial, the working outside. You can see at the end of the day the results that you completed, right? Like the history, you can, with somebody that's been in the business a long time, when you're driving down, I worked on that project. I helped develop this. But I do agree with you. It's getting to those middle schools. It's getting to those high schools. I mean, that's kind of the trades. If they're already in that era, it's like, hey, they're already committed. What avenue are they going to go down? Well, I will say Jordan Keller does a great job. Our HR department does a great job with that, constantly out there. And just, again, we call it uncommonly refreshing, Neal.
Yeah.
Our part of the industry is just to go and tell people the good, the bad, or what is good for you, what is not good for you, all those options. But there's so many options in the trade right now. It's really exciting because maybe one day it'll be like the Jetsons, right? That whole thing, that cartoon. And if you're too young, go watch a couple episodes. I mean, maybe that's where we're going with AI and robots and stuff. But until we get there,
somebody's still going to have to build it, right? So I think part of the problem is kids aren't being exposed to this in school anymore. There's no more shop class or wood shop class. None of those classes exist. School for most kids is purely academic now. And there's some really great vocational tech schools out there graduating amazing kids. We hire caregivers from a nursing program here in my home. Personally, we love them, but they're few and far between, man. They're really few and far between. And so it is up to the companies, unfortunately, to go do it. And I would say every minute you spend with the group of kids helping expose them to an opportunity is probably one of the best hours you could spend in a week.
Yeah, I would say this to any young people. So I had a client, and this particular client oversaw, I call it daycare for the elderly, right?
Sure.
Man, if you really want to get perspective in life, go to a couple of those places. Go in, and those people will tell you what they regret, what they should have done. That's something I suggest to everybody is like, if you don't know what you want to do in life right now, talk to some people, figure it out. There's some exciting things. So, Neal, I know your history, if you don't mind, if there is a young person out there that's ambitious, that wants to grow a company, because there are some entrepreneurs out there, or there are people that want to test the water, right?
Yeah.
I know you were successful in a couple companies. Can you give me like the 101s or the quick reference for some advice to somebody of how to get started? What should they be really thinking about when they're starting a company? And then how do we grow it, right?
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I would suggest for anyone is don't overlook the small companies, right? A lot of kids graduating college classes I talk to, they're all excited to go work at a Inc. 5000 employer. They want to apply to Amazon or Google, or they want to be on the bleeding edge of some big enterprise. That wasn't my career. When I decided to start my own coaching practice, I called someone who was a coach of mine who had started his own coaching practice a few years prior. And I met up with him for lunch, and I was asking for advice similar to what you asked. And he told me something that resonates with me every single day. Kirk goes, Neal, I know you're super excited to go in there and help companies to do what you're trying to do, right? To add value and perform operationally. But you have to be everything when you own your own company. Well, it's just you, at least until you hire other people, but you have to be everything. And the first thing that you have to be is a salesperson, right? So every single company in the world operates under the flow of sell something, deliver something, make money, right?
Yeah.
And when you get out there, if you start your own business and you're just so pumped to run a paver, run a piece of equipment, run a backhoe, fix a car, like amazing, but you need to sell first, right? And so it's this inescapable truth. And if you can't, then you're not going to make it. You're not going to be able to hire people. And so you have to figure out what that sales mechanism is. Everything else, could you skip on high-end accountants? Yeah, for sure, for a while, right? You can do basic bookkeeping. Can you skip on marketing? Definitely. Can you skip on HR? Sure. You don't need an HR person until you're, and there's lots of services that help you on a fractional basis or whatever. But sales, I've never seen somebody outsource it successfully. I've never seen somebody skip it successfully, right? It's the
100%.
lifeblood. It's the first thing. It's the tip of the spear. So you have to figure out how you're going to sell. Doesn't mean you're going to be the most amazing salesperson. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like what excites you the most. It could be sort of a necessary evil until you're able to hire somebody else. Although I really don't think sales is evil. I think that's a framing issue more than a skill issue. But you have to do it, right? And so for those people, what I would say is spend some time and figure out what your personal philosophy is when it comes to sales. And there's a few that you can have. And the research has proven that none are better than the other, right? They're all equal, which is cool, right? So there's a number of books out there on sales that will give you sort of their philosophy. One's like the Challenger sale, where you're supposed to be this kind of know-it-all, kind of like challenge your customers, and that's right for some people. There's a Go-Giver sale, where you're supposed to just add as much value as possible to other people. And maybe that's what you're all about. Chris, you kind of seem to align with that a little bit from our time together, right? I personally view sales, I try and weave some of these together depending on the situation to contextually sell. But for me, sales is like, man, I am exactly the perfect solution. Nobody on this planet is a better solution than Neal for just a couple people, right? Maybe 5 or 6. And I'm just looking to get to those 5 or 6. Now, I don't know who they are, right?
Yep.
But when I come up to a sale, it's like, you're either, I'm the best possible investment you can make in your entire business or somebody else's. And if I can figure out whether it is or not, then we're good. And I'm trying to figure out as quickly as possible. Are we exactly the right perfect fit? And so for me, sales is not a influential endeavor. It's a discovery or problem solving endeavor. Right. And that gives me lots of freedom to ask tough questions and to dig in. And when someone's kind of cagey or when somebody doesn't volunteer stuff, it's like, well, then I can't make a good decision. And I end every sales call with either a proposal that's going to get accepted or a referral that's going to be incredible. Those are going to be the two ways that this ends. Right.
Okay.
One or the other. And we'll decide together which one it's going to be, me and the prospect. And so figure out your personal philosophy when it comes to sales and then just embrace it. Do something for that every day, right?
100%. And also, I would say, I do believe there's different seasons of life, right? Like
100%. Yes.
you should always, and I'm just saying this to salespeople in general, you should be always reading. If you can't read while you're driving, you should be listening to books, right? Not to say that you have to align with that person's philosophies 100%, but the biggest thing you can do is surround yourself with people that think like you or have the same goals and want to get where you want to go in life.
Yeah.
If you are surrounded by people that are always negative, that always put you down, or you're in the wrong group, like I would say that as well to people that think they want to get into the sales role or in the sales role. But yeah, I mean, I think mine comes down to how can I help you? And if I can't help you, who do I know in my network that I can connect you with to help you?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's one of my biggest things that I got to do for people, because it might not be that opportunity right now, but maybe down the road, they'll think of me and be like, oh, this is a good opportunity. And I would say, too, don't sell the unsellable.
Right.
If someone is like, nah, maybe it's not. Okay, boom, move on to somebody else. Don't pour time and effort and resources into someone who can or doesn't want to be sold with your products or services.
Right.
Find the people that need you.
And that reminds me of one of my favorite sales books of all times called Built to Sell. Highly recommend. Super easy read, kind of like one of those parable stories about a print shop or designer, but super applicable to the trades, I think. The idea is you need to build your company around something that you can sell easily, right? So when I started my company, I had a network. I had a professional brand. And so when I changed my company on LinkedIn, there were a handful of business owners who reached out and were very curious about what I was offering and doing because they knew what I had accomplished. And so being young and immature and not understanding this concept, even though I'd been in sales my whole life, they were like, well, what's your vision? How can you help us? And I was like, oh, dude, I'll do whatever you need, right? Like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to add value. And that was true, but it was like there was no program. There was no price. It was like, let's figure it out. And it was very, very hard for people to buy. Now we have one page, 4 options. That's it. And you're going to pick your option or you're going to choose to pass on us. And that makes it so much easier to sell because it's so defined, right?
Yeah.
Took us a long time. I'm so grateful for the mentor in my life who gave me that book because it was like, oh, I'm not limiting options. I'm becoming more referable and more sellable. Right.
Yeah.
And like when you guys go to your website, you got so many services and it's like, that's hard if you're trying to represent them all. You go to networking and you meet someone and they're like, well, what do you do? Like, we do everything. You're like, that's not memorable. That's not referable, right? You got to contextualize it. And so for me, I help companies in the trades scale real fast. That's it, right?
Yeah.
We're not a fit for someone who's trying to sell with marketing, who doesn't want to deal with the salespeople, who wants a done it for you solution. We're a partner that latches on. I already told you the 4 ways we do it. We hire, we assess, we'll do strategy set planning, or we'll coach. And then we have associated prices. And it's just very, very simple and clean to pick it and buy it. And today, while I don't necessarily believe in the marketing, like the catching attention, people are researching. They are going to your website.
Yeah.
They are showing up to the sale highly educated compared to 10 or 20 years ago. And so I have a beautiful website. It exists mostly as a credential backer, right?
Yep.
So I know that when I'm working with a company, usually I'm talking with an owner or a director of sales or something, and everybody gets excited, and then somebody's going to have to cut a pretty big check. And they need to be like, wait, is this guy even legitimate, right?
Yep.
And then a quick Google search, and it's like, oh, yeah, this guy looks legit. That's all it's there for, right? Because customers have already done a lot of research before they show up.
Yeah, I mean, depends what industry you're in, but they usually, like you said, are going to your website, checking things out. I would say a couple words of advice. Again, early in my career, you would show up and throw up, right? You'd be like, we do this, we do that, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. There's a reason.
Yeah.
You need to listen twice as much as you speak. And if you're speaking too much, you don't understand the customer's problem. If you bring in the information, understand it, and if you have the solution for the customer, this is the solution, and then you can move forward. And yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and sometimes you need to make sure you say no to.
Mm-hmm.
I would always say this to people too. Saying yes to everything is saying no to something that you don't even know about yet.
Right.
Because you gave a reference one time about churches and pastors, right?
Yeah.
Another interesting fact here. If a church is 80% at capacity for seating, that's like 100%.
Right.
Because too close, that's one of the things. So if a church's occupancy is at 80%, it's really that high, 100%. And then they need to look at other services or expanding or doing all that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to unwind here. So, Neal, we got to land this plane. What are some critical next steps for people that have that medium-sized company?
Yeah.
Like you talked about, we're not starting from new. We're a medium-sized company. We got a couple years under our belt.
Yes.
What are the next couple things I should be doing?
Okay. So there's really like three big things that I always help companies do. And so number one is go through your customers, current and past customers, and try and figure out who your favorite, your best, your most profitable were. Okay. They can be either the ones you like working with, the ones you made the most money from, the one where everything just seemed easy, whatever it is, however you define that, just write down those customer names. And then try and figure out what separates them from all the other customers that were supposed to be the same but weren't, right? So if you're selling to property managers or GCs or project managers, like they all fit that title, but then you found out that something was different, and really try and figure out the geography, the spend, the value, the problems you solve, the service you delivered. Like, what are the 6 characteristics if you were to have a chart, and just figure out what they have in common that nobody else seems to have? That's your ideal customer, and
Okay.
only sell to them. Number one. Number two is define your sales process. So, same process, go through the sale that you made, try to remember the steps of what you did in terms of conversation that landed that felt the best, right? You're like, oh man, that was like the greatest sale ever. Maybe not necessarily in terms of volume or significance, but just in how I felt and how easy it was. What's the peak sales experience you've had? And map out the steps. We talked on the phone for 15 minutes. We sat down for an hour. We presented the proposal live. We answered their questions. They gave us a summary of all the bids they received, and we had a conversation and redefined the scope and then signed an agreement. And it all happened within 23 days, right? Whatever that is, that's your ideal sales process. And you're going to try and build a system to support that. And you're going to try and make every sale flow that same way, right? So that's your target market and your sales process. And the third thing is who's going to do the work, right? Who's going to do the work of going to networking events? Who's going to do the work of cold calling these places? Who's going to do the work of door knocking or asking for referrals or whatever your prospecting method is? And is that the owner? Is that who's doing it today? Or is that someone who we're not aware exists yet that we need? And get them in, set them up, and set them on that direction. Those are the three things that we do. Sometimes it takes a workshop of a couple days. Hiring is usually 8 to 12 weeks between start and employee start date. But those are the three things to do for anybody who's finding sales a little frustrating or exhausting, who's finding sales a little weak or unprofitable or not as profitable as they want, or who's struggling with kind of a glass ceiling and trying to break through. And if you need help and you think that we might be a fit, then feel free to reach out and we'd love to explore with you if we are or not. You can find us on LinkedIn, my website. My name's Neal, Neal Glatt, Glatt. Website's nealglatt.com. If you Google Neal Glatt, I'm going to pop up pretty quick. It's sort of a unique name. So,
Yeah, it's pretty high up there. So again, Neal, thank you. I think this is great for the industry. These are maybe one of those things that people listen to and can take some notes away from. Please, if you like this podcast, like it, share it. If you don't like it, send me an email. Tell me you don't like it. If you want to be a guest, reach out. Always looking for people to be on the podcast. And again, it's Brubacher and Beyond. And this was one of the Beyond things. I would say at Brubacher, we do have a sales strategy. The company's been around for a long time. There are key people that we rely on to do this sales process. So we do have our own sales process in-house. It's always being thought about. It's always being updated. How can we get better? How can we service our customers better? How can we bring more value? So it's a never-ending journey. Once you think you're at the top of the hill, you get pulled down really quickly and then you got to rebuild. So again, thank you, Neal, for your time today. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. Have a great day.